New frequency downloading, recalibration of form as the neural pathways are recoding. Networks of energy currents pulsating and vibrating through my bones. Awareness arising, constructs dividing, frequency of love integrated and aligning. The sacred space created as a release eviscerated and eliminated all that no longer is aligned or reflected the frequency of the divine. Vessel of light, ignite the magenta flame, reconnecting, resurrecting, as it burns within my heart again. Memories awakening, timelines disintegrating, instantaneous releasing. The shimmering within, crystalline frequency anchoring beneath the skin. Rushes of ecstatic light energy flowing through this avatar of soul elasticity. Sensual, elemental, divine feminine vibes arise in the vortex of transcendental. Riding the vibrations, embracing the mutations, elevating, recalibrating, light grounding and anchoring. The foundations of the old frequency have finally dissolved. My heart has absolved itself of all connection and expectation. I released, retrieved, and prayed upon my knees until I was empty, creating space for a pure transfusion of divine love frequency.
It is with great love that I'm sharing this. You know, we are going through an immense transition at this time. It is beyond anything that we've ever had before. And I just want to encourage you and to know that you should rise above it all. Rise above everything that's happening in the old world, in the 3D world. Whatever seems to be churning up now, let it go. Let your emotions go. Let everything that is emotional charges just go. Rise above it. Fly like an eagle above it and get the bird's eye view. We are in the middle of an immense resurrection of humankind as never ever been before. This is not a time to shrink, but it's a time to expand. It's a time to stand in the fullness of your being. It is time to stand in the heart of love and know that you are the love that is changing the world. You are unique and special in your own way. You know, when I do soul readings, I'm always astounded at the caliber of souls that have incarnated. And we came in to bring this transition into being. We came in to bring this resurrection into being of a humankind, a new way of life, the new golden age to rise. That's why you are here on this planet, first and foremost. Don't worry about what's going on around you. Go and fly higher than that. Go and find your essence of your soul, the deepest soul empowerment within you, and then live it to all that you are. Even at this moment, the next few weeks, we are going through an immense transition. You are going to be changed at the core. You won't even recognize yourself from a month or 2 months or 3 months or 6 months from now on. And even the planet, as we are going through a tremendous transitionary stage. It's okay to sometimes just wonder. It's okay to sometimes feel a bit lost. But then surrender your whole life and your whole being to the higher will, to the divine will. And you will be carried through on the wings of angels and archangels and all those beings of light as we are surrounded by tremendous forces, benevolent forces now who are helping us to make this transition. Your ascended masters are there. The whole of the galactic fleet is here. Everybody is here who is bringing in the light. They are anchoring in the light. They are helping us to make this transition. And the transition now is into the 5th to 7th dimensional state and even higher. The higher your soul goes, the higher your caliber soul is. It's not the time to actually buy into fear. Let the fear go. Transcend it and move into your higher soul selves. And you can do this with love. Yes, I don't quite know what's going on, how this is all coming into form and being. I'm at loss for words. But all I can say is I encourage you and bring that loving message to you, and know that if love fills your heart and your soul and every cell and atom of your being, you will transcend and you will rise into the fullness of your being as a soul. What a gift! Embrace that gift. As I embrace you with love, may you feel the depths of a divine love and light and being fill your being today. I love you, and the divine loves you. You will be carried through this time. Go and rise into the fullness of your being.
The very nature of politics is dichotomous. Its purpose is to enslave. The intention of this system is to create an emotional attachment through a false sense of self, programmed through thought and bound by energy. Affliction comes by way of pain, antithetical to conviction, who is conjoined with peace. The substantial embodiment of our spirit leads to an unequivocal remembrance, a mental and emotional reframing. We have always been, and we will always be. The nature of the Spirit is love. Love is the eternal essence of all, and love can only love. The conservative and liberal programmed against one another. The white programmed to see themselves as separate from the black programmed to see themselves as separate from the white, the Christian, the Mormon, the Muslim, programmed to see themselves as separate from the gay, the Muslim programmed against the Christian, and the Christian programmed against the Muslim. There is too much noise. The evangelical sees him as anointed. The minority sees him as the Antichrist. And the spiritualists split. The illusion of separation playing out everywhere and in everything. Now, let us all ask ourselves, who am I?
So things break and we reassemble the pieces that are fractalized patiently with lots of love and gratitude. I am grateful to restore what has been broken with the tools and the techniques. So grateful. May you be restored with lots of love and gratitude.
DNA creates personal, collective, and multidimensional experiences in form. It is a photonic light receiver and generator, which serves as an antenna to transduce spiritual information into form. Activating our crystalline, Christed, or divine DNA is key to the experience of shifting dimensions and ascension itself. Our coveted DNA structure allows for a pure experience of Source, the Creator, while in denser form. We utilize crystalline DNA as a gateway to a new experience because it bridges dimensions and densities, sometimes known as the Rainbow Bridge. The frequency of Christ consciousness shines through crystalline DNA, allowing the experience of ascension through a denser form. Crystalline DNA is a quantum recording device of all that we have been, are, and will be, and all of the possibilities therein. This includes all realms and expressions in the multiverse, from first separation and back again. The more strands and levels we activate and access, the more information and pliability of realms, times, outcomes, and creations can present. We align with our Creator state of consciousness, which returns us to the pure unified state of infinite possibility. When our heart center expands to the vibration of Christ or unity consciousness, our DNA activates and spins in coherent toroidal formations, allowing it to radiate diamond solar plasma light codes. Crystalline DNA is a high-frequency light signature before it manifests into form. Crystalline DNA operates in the quantum. The more strands or layers we activate, the more we experience quantum entanglement with higher levels of consciousness, including higher dimensional versions of self, angelic realms, masters, galactic realms, and other forms of consciousness which we used to perceive as separate beings. DNA information may travel on streams of light intelligence through vast areas of space via alignments of central solar bodies designed to deliver intelligence, the great central sun, galactic center, suns, or stars. Gaia herself is transcending into a crystalline solar-type body in order to support the activation of higher frequency beings upon her physical vessel to assist with that process. She is transforming into a platform in order to support our ascended self. The solar cosmic Christed state operates like a sun, a solar model, not only in the enlightened pure heart center, but as the center of your own solar style system, a system of unified divine aspects. The divine human Christed state was created in alignment with the templates which govern stars, and you will find the 12 into the 1 template reflected in your DNA fields as well. Christ consciousness shining through the crystalline DNA is a bridge between worlds. Like a primary Christed ascension timeline, we utilize crystalline DNA as a gateway to a new experience because it bridges dimensions and densities. DNA receives cosmic light through the micro wormholes in the strands. We also bilocate new strands and awareness into our cells. The structure rebundles as a 12-strand DNA and remembers the cosmic self. Our awakened consciousness then creates realities, experiences in alignment with the source codes flowing from this activated DNA. It is divine creation in action. When we activate these crystalline strands of DNA, we begin the embodiment process of our ascension. We begin to experience many aspects of self as a simultaneous experience. Through aligning with 0 point in our sacred practices, we may experience the presence of Source as self. This is the Christed, crystalline, or unity consciousness state, and it is produced through our DNA. Cosmic frequencies alter the way in which we co-create our reality. This is why this is happening now. The sun, Solaris, is a stargate to the higher realms. This is reflected in our own heart centers as our diamond solar crystalline heart opens to become a stargate for Christ consciousness in the same way Solaris is doing this in this now moment. As the sun shifts to a pure, more unified form in alignment with the background energy, the cosmic mother frequency of this universe, which is pure, unconditional love. We see the sun shifting into this higher state of beingness, and we witness this in this now moment. Mass participation in the ascension process, the increase in photonic light codes through sound, tone, color, frequencies, and our location in the galaxy in this now moment activates these divine human DNA markers, allowing for a new projection of realities through the sun, Gaia, and our heart centers. They all align. We receive these light codes and etheric DNA strands into our bodies and fields and activate our divine human DNA. It changes our perception of reality on a personal and collective level, allowing access to the higher realms of our own consciousness. Solar heart activation weaves us back into the cosmic fabric of oneness, pure unity consciousness, the God state. Through collective DNA superradiance, we experience embodiment. Embodiment amplifies the collective human heart grid, providing DNA codes which allow unity consciousness as a palpable reality for all willing hearts. It is an act of service as well as a desire of the soul to reunify with Source. When we choose to participate in the ascension and DNA activation, we become part of a unified field of conscious intent to accelerate change. We activate collective DNA fields in the human heart grid and connect with Gaia's crystalline grid, granting access to the ascended realm of the new earth. We go through phases of activation. In the ascension process, we honor the step-by-step function of each phase of crystalline DNA activation. They parallel each other because DNA is the key to our experience of ascension in these realms. Each of these phases is covered in detail in this class. The first phase is healing, detoxification of the physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual levels, which creates the bio-landscape and the quantum canvas for our ascension experience. This phase allows us to create the vehicle to hold the much higher frequencies of 12-strand and 144 infinite level DNA. The second phase is heart coherence. All is directed and manifested through the heart, the vibration of love light, as we reactivate the higher strands and levels of crystalline DNA. It's like a fail-safe on the whole ascension operation. The coherent heart field must be present to receive, perceive, and operate in the higher states of crystalline consciousness. It cannot happen without heart coherence. The third phase is activation, receiving and generating photonic light, coherent light, through the DNA for the experience of reconnection to Source as self and other aspects of self in other realms. Epigenetic overriding of lesser or uncomplementary codes is part of our activation at this phase, and the 12 and 144 structure is revealed. The fourth phase is embodiment, the ability to activate and receive DNA strands and codes and hold them in the conscious awareness for a full experience of the Christed state. We then enter the phase of mastery, becoming one with the cosmic lattice work, the Stargate systems of Source consciousness flowing into these realities. The next phase is transcendence, which is the transmutation of the denser physical form from carbon to carbon silica and then to silica. And the crystalline DNA is the mechanism for shifting the perception of dimensional realities. All is unified and we perceive these levels one by one as we experience DNA activation. Now, all of this DNA activation and perception of other levels of self begins with choice. DNA activation is stimulating. It's clearing. This class is light encoded to assist you with this process. We ask that you pace yourself. Alignment and integration is key. Take notes. Follow the practices. Follow the methods for best results. We welcome you to this beautiful exploration of crystalline DNA and all that your divine consciousness already contains. We're going to unlock, activate, and go step by step through this process together in order to become the awareness of all that is shining through all of these realities in order to assist our brothers and sisters with the activation and the perception of the pure Source as self state.
Yo, the work is gone already. The work is gone already. It's Frankfurt this time, though.
Smoke. Yeah. All cleared up. I'm saying. A little eucalyptus and menthol, you know what I mean? Joint, we back. Move through the courtyard, looking at the stars. The stars I ask, cause you're looking at me, elevating in the streets. Bang. For the folks that can see us going down in the block. Down in the block where the Kenny lady rockin', the bones get slammed. Yeah. The table with fam, let it melt in your mouth and not in your hand. Chocolate, rockin' it. Rockin' it, you know I wanna go. Keep it elevating with the crew. South side of the city, I should really get busy. Macho man daddy with the flex gang. Thumbs up, cause my text flames. You ain't tryna heal it, homie, that way. They really get you killing, baby, that's lame. Insane to the membrane, no savages, man, we all came. Raw flea, we gon' eat. Watch the blessings of the heavens come spoil me. Ask poorly, I'm on the couch. Get up every morning, man, and make that bounce. You dead. Them baby girls, I'm a picky ring. Blue bristles cuts with the diamond clusters. I relish this. Who need muscle, man? Hot dog, gas, tubby buster. Yo, chillin' with the vision, ain't it pimpin'? I send it on the rhythm, man, you never kept me slippin'. I'ma get him in a minute, that the brother keep playin'. Check it, go, slow just roll. The brothers and sisters. You can see the clickin', man, but rapper to the bullets. Liver on the microphone, my team up, catching bullets. That smile, boogie, bright crown on the side, gold tooth like Lolo. My mama don't favor that mess, but the way I did it was so dope. Yo, we still here? Hey, look at him. Look at him. Look at him. Southside. Southside. Hey, yo. 2 up, 2 down to the galaxy. Yo, it's a sack check. It's a sack check. It's a jack check. Go, who you with? Take the body up, the crucifix, the pressures on the mic. I never turn on the beat and make it know that damn. The feeling was a pen. The feeling was a pen. I'm ready with the wings. The heavens got the verse while I'm a service to the earth. Until the Trump administration never put the world first. I'm feeling you. Got a couple overs over on the grill. Smoke a veggie patty burning from the booth. Smoke around my dog and nothing but the truth. Ash Tower reporting in. This G4 once again. Ground crew on the ground. Let the liberation begin. Southside. Look at him. Southside. Yup. Look at him. Yeah. Ash Tower, no down. We here on the ground. Hey, hold on, son, stop playing. Hey, yo, look at him. Hey, look at him. Southside, yo, look at him. Hey, 144,000 on the ground. 2,050,000 in the air, 6 million. On 4 Ascension J. Let's go. Yeah. Universal brothers and sisters.
Well, hello and welcome to the Fairy Glade. Close by the river, you can probably hear the river in the background. Overcast afternoon, winter. But the seasons don't make any difference at all to the unseen forest dwellers. And I have a little routine which I always go through when I come into the forest, every time I come into this area here. I give thanks to the guardians of this land. I give thanks to the ancestors whose spirits are here. I also give thanks and acknowledge the little people, the unseen people, the patapaiarehi, the fairy folks, the elves, whatever you like to call them, the beings which are here. I also thank every living thing in the forest for allowing me to come to this special place. The birds and the insects, the animals, every tree that is present here, I give thanks to especially. And then I like to say thank you to all the waters that flow around this land, under this land, and flow within every plant and every tree and every living thing that is here. Every stone, every branch has residues of water in it. And this resonates with us as humans, with the water we have within. So when I do this little routine, as I like to call it when I come here, it's not a ritual. I do it, I ad-lib it, it changes sometimes. But it's acknowledging the unseen presence. And the unseen presence is unseen to me physically, but I hear and I know. And other people that I bring to this area here, they see and they hear and they share with me. We've had all sorts of explanations, we've had all sorts of descriptions given for what is here. And it's so exciting, and I know that when I come and talk that there is an acknowledgement. And I know that so often, as a lot of you would understand, that when we go to special places and we take photographs around about, and then we put them up on our computer when we get home, and we look at the foliage, and we look at the leaves, and we look at the ground and think, oh my gosh, look at that little face peering out from behind those leaves at me. I never saw it with the physical eye, but there was something there. So this is a place which is part of a fairy trail which comes from up the hill there. It goes right through on the fringes of this area here I've designated or called the Fairy Glade, across the main track there, down and across the river and up the other side. So this is just one of many, many fairy trails that are to be found throughout Aotearoa, New Zealand. And not only in places of forest like this, they're all over the land, they're all over the country. So, if we take the time to sit quietly within nature, or even in our own gardens, down the bottom of the garden, and we just allow ourselves to sink into the ambience of what's around us, we just allow ourselves to imagine, to visualize, and then we will allow ourselves perhaps to hear, and then to ultimately see. In this special place, there is a way that I can often tell when the presence is nearby, and I'll show you how I do this. I have here a couple of very simple dowsing rods. Some of you may be conversant with dowsing. And so I'm just going to see now if there is a presence here, close by, that's observing what we're doing today. Ooh. That's a positive. Is there anything in very close proximity? Wow. Are you hearing what I'm talking about? A very simple confirmation, and it's very heartening because, as I say, I sometimes hear, but at this stage I cannot see. So for all the times I step in here and talk to the unseen, they do acknowledge my presence, which is wonderful. It's really wonderful. So all these things are in the eye of the beholder. And some people may think this is so strange, talking about little fairies and big fairies, and they come in all sizes. I have a book, which I bought back from England a few years ago, and it describes 123 different types of little forest dwellers and the dwellers within nature. And this, of course, includes elemental beings. And elemental beings, I feel, are reflecting themselves and their presence through the music of the plants that I am recording. And I feel that the elemental beings for every plant are helping to express themselves and their being through the music of the plants. So that is a small introduction to the fairy glade and the fairy forest. Magical place for me and for many other people. And I'd like to think that sometime soon you'll come and visit this glade with me, so we can sit here quietly and just contemplate and listen. So thank you very much, everybody.
Resurrection is not limited to icons, but unlimited to the life of our souls. We have all walked the dark nights when we thought we were in the right, and we have all walked in the light when we thought there was none. Oneness is underestimated because it covers far more than peace, love, happiness, and the trappings of dogmas. Oneness is to understand that all of the dark nights hold the same face and that everyone's pain is equivalent when weighed against their singular life experience. Oneness is releasing every possession which really had been possessing us all along. The old family gripes so easy to blame on another, the religions and icons forced on ancestors at the price of land and freedoms forsaken. The government conspiracies and royalty belied of the dark demagoguery of foolish human pride. The chains and the stains, the shames and the blames, that even if we're true, serve no purpose but to hide us from ourselves and each other. Divinity is always becoming, always on time, leading to the first and last, the end that begins. I am soul.
Why do you think the indigenous people live the way they do? They don't know the world you do. They don't exist in the world you do. They don't even own a cell phone. They couldn't even tell you one politician's name, one celebrity's name, not even one. Because they exist in a completely different environment and world than we do. This is why people leave behind their crowded cities of people just like them to go into forests, go into nature, as the indigenous people have done. Because it is the people existent in the program. Go to work, eat, sleep, retire, die. These people suffer. These people are being told how to live their lives. These people are being told the world is a dark place. Everything online is a program. And YouTube is it's a blessing, but it's a curse. Because there is so much fear-based information on YouTube. And what we don't realize is about fear-based ideas and demons, okay? They're one and the same thing. There's so many fear-based videos on Facebook and YouTube, and they're no different than demons, okay? Demons depicted in Bibles and holy books, in my opinion, began as someone's own shadow self, someone's own inner demon that they did not face. What did they do? They gave it a name. They drew it. They materialized it. And they released it into the collective consciousness. And then that demon that was once one person's shadow demon becomes a collective agreement that we collectively agree on. That we say this is real. This is scary. This is something we should be worried about. It's a collective agreement. And it's the same with government. The government is our shadow self, and when we do not look at the shadow self, it is projected outside of us. We avoid it. It becomes that demon we did not face, and so we materialize it outside of us for everyone else to deal with.
Is that what we call the external is a projection of the internal, our perception. And, you know, I'm very interested. I didn't know that this is what we were going to talk about, but this is the area that absolutely fascinates me. Not just that, it is the way out, because we live in a reality that has two worlds in it. One world is that which is populated by the mass of nearly 8 billion people. And that world is systematically limited in terms of the knowledge that it's allowed to have. I mean, you can find it if you go looking for it, but generally people are not aware of that knowledge, which is kept from them. This is what the education system's about. It's what the mainstream media is about. It's what Silicon Valley's about. It's holding people in tram lines of knowledge, what I call the postage stamp consensus, a very narrow band of perceived possibility. And then you have this other world, which is made up of a global web of secret societies, semi-secret groups, that has knowledge well, across a big range, but in two major areas that it desperately wants to keep from the population. And that's what secret societies are all about. And I'm not talking about, you know, Fred and Bill who go down the Freemasons lodge. I mean, they might do a bit of manipulation in the local community and a bit of business and stuff. But I'm talking about the inner core of this global cult. And this secrecy is blatantly to keep things secret. So what? Okay, so one aspect of it is to keep from us where the world's being taken. So what we are supposed to believe is that world events, even society-changing events, are random and have come out of nowhere. Take this COVID hoax now. But crucial for what we're talking about now, and crucial to the control, is this other area of knowledge they want to keep from us, and that's the nature of reality and the nature of the I. So if you look at human society and the way it's been structured, systematically, you're looking at a limitation on knowledge and crucially, a limitation on the nature of reality and who we are. So, for instance, you can have a choice between believing in a religion, although that's being targeted, not least the Christian religion now, big time, or you can believe that this world is all there is, and you have your 70 years and 10 or whatever, and then you come out of nowhere and you go back into nowhere, and that's it. But this other whole area of the fact that we are awareness, we are a point of attention within an infinite flow of awareness, and what we call human is just a brief experience for that awareness. And in fact, the true I is not what we perceive as the physical world. It's the consciousness that's having the experience of the physical world. So again, if you look at the way it's structured and you look at the way people are encouraged in channels of perception, we are pressured and encouraged to self-identify the true I with the labels of what we're experiencing. So if you say to somebody, hello, nice to meet you, who are you? They'll give you their life story, they'll give you their job, they'll give you their sexuality maybe, they give you their politics, whatever. And all these things are just labels, race, just labels of it for an experience. So, someone may be black, maybe white, maybe, brown, sky blue, bloody pink. But that's just the vehicle for consciousness to experience itself and experience this particular reality. But the idea is to pull you in to self-identity, the I, with the labels. Because once you do that, of course, now you're self-identifying with limitation. Because once you think who you are is what you're experiencing, the world of the five senses, then suddenly everything looks impossible. Changing anything looks impossible. It looks incredibly slow, even if you try, because this is the realm of I can't. It's not possible. And if you note what's been happening in the run-up to where we are now, they have been systematically again subdividing those labels. So you have a man label, you have a woman label, you have a this label or that label, and now, of course, we've got this big, long, ever-growing list of letters where each letter is self-defining what I would call an experience, what they would call the self, in minute detail. And the more that this process goes on, the more people are seeing themselves in greater and greater myopic perception. So the I am are, as I would call it, goes from I'm all that is, has been, and ever can be, down into the fine detail of sexuality or whatever. And so this has been done on purpose, because this other world knows how reality works. And it knows that if the population realized, and the population realized the nature of the true I, then its game is over. And this is why what we're talking about here is so important, because if we fall into the trap, especially now in current times, of believing that the I is the labels, the I is the little me, if you like, instead of the big infinite me, then it looks very, very dark and very dangerous, and the world seems a dangerous place that there seems to be no answer to it. But when you realize that what we call the world is merely a collective projection of human perception, and that if you believe that you are little me, you'll live a little me life, because what you believe you perceive, what you perceive you experience, then you start to realize, because this world is not solid, but it's energetic, it's information, and therefore it's malleable, it's changeable. And so if we had for instance, tonight for me, a massive global transformation in human perception, this world will change immediately. It would have to. This is just a projection of it. So if you look at just very quickly, if you look at 2020, all that has been right up to present time is a projection of human perception. Two types mainly that's got us into this mess. One which simply gets its perception off the peg from and off the shelf from government and authority, and it believed that there was a deadly virus, and the authority said, because it always knows best, that the only way to protect yourself from it and your family from it is to go into house arrest and do what they say. So that was that perception became the reality of mass lockdown and house arrest and dismantling of the economy. Number two perception were those that actually realized actually there's more to know here. There's something strange going on. And I don't believe the government are telling us the truth. But their perception is, if I go against it, well, there will be consequences for me from authority, and therefore I'm going to go into house arrest as well. And as usual, it was the few, and continues to be the relative few, it's getting bigger and bigger all the time, mind, that say, A, I can see it's a scam, A, I can see I'm being lied to, and I'm not going to cooperate with it. And it's that latter group that is going to turn this around if anyone is.
Yeah. This community and the communities that overlap with it, again, have a lot of similarities in their individual past like you do, as I said before. One of the things that's very common in this community is that these individuals have a connection, let's just say, with infinite intelligence. Some of that connection is angelic, some of it is elemental, some of it is other divine essences, and a big part of it is galactic. Now, there is a disclosure platform out there, there's a conspiracy platform out there, you might call it, and then there's what I would call the star seed or way shower or light worker platforms, which we would probably fall under. One of my goals is to try to unite all three of those into a singular voice. But having said that, you and those like you have educated us and explained to us that there are higher intelligences behind what we see as the leaders, as the movers and the shakers in the world, the controllers. We can talk about the reptilians, we can talk about the archons and such. Now, the other side of that is this. These folks out here are receiving intelligence from somewhere that is benevolent, that is saying that there's a mission here to turn this thing around and raise the frequency of the earth. Now, where I'm going with this is also because of people like you, and a big part of it is because of you, that these controllers have had a vision or some type of clue at a minimum as to what was going to happen tens of hundreds of years down the road. They set us up, just like, for instance, with the Rothschilds, like you've explained to us, how they set up the central banks and how that was all premeditated. Now, what I'm getting at is right now there seems to be somewhat of a rift in this community in regard to QAnon and Trump. There is a narrative that there are white hats in the government, that there are benevolent beings that are working with these white hats against the controllers and the malevolent forces behind them. Do you have any opinion or anything you can add to this, or maybe open up for us?
Well, all I can say is this. You know, I've been on this journey consciously for 30 years. And so I've seen it come, and I've seen it go, and I've seen it come, and I've seen it go. And this whole idea of some force within the government going to arrest the bad guys. So basically, you don't have to do anything. The plan's in place. Yeah, it's all right. It's all sorted. I've heard so many times with different names. I listened to radio station hosts telling me that there is a date when this is going to happen. And then that date passes and it doesn't happen, and there's another date. And I'm talking now, when am I talking? When I heard these radio shows saying this, it must be 5, 6, 7 years ago.
Wow.
And I listened to them and I thought, it's not going to happen. The point is that we have to do it. It's not going to be done for us. Yeah. And therefore, any idea of we'll just sit there because the plan's in place is just putting off the moment when we do what's necessary to make a difference here. And if you break down how humanity is controlled and how it's been controlled all the way through known human history, this goes back a very long time, it's through control of perception. That's what it is. It's manipulating people to see themselves in the world and events in a certain way so that they will behave as a result of that belief the way that which has manipulated that belief wants them to behave. I mean, 2020 up to present day is an absolute classic of its kind in that regard. And so sitting back and waiting for the good guys to arrest the bad guys, well, I've heard it all before. And it's putting off the day when we have to look this in the eye and say, we ain't blinking. Yeah. And, you know, I hear the labels, and again, I can only come from where I'm coming from. I don't deal in labels in that sense. When people said to me, who are you? I don't find a higher level label, or I'm from this realm, or I'm from that realm, or I'm this or I'm that. I just say I'm all that is, has been, and ever can be, having an experience. And when this experience is over, I'll be all that is, has been, and ever can be, and I'll be having another experience. So I just see myself as awareness, a state of being aware. And coming to what you were saying a few minutes ago, we talk about other realms and connections to other realms, but we are the other realms. We are the other realms. We are communicating with ourselves because we, all of us, are not just a point of attention, although the body focuses that attention in the human life. We're not just a point of attention within this infinite field of consciousness and awareness. We are that field. And the question is, how much of that field, that infinity, are we going to tap into? In other words, how much of that infinity are we going to identify with? Are we going to identify with that little bit that calls itself David Icke, born in Leicester, England in 1952? Or are we going to self-identify with the infinite field itself? And the more that you open your self-identity, the more of this field you're tapping into. As your self-identity moves out of the label self, phantom self as I call it, and into a perception of infinite self, that very redefinition of identity, the I, expands your consciousness in relation to the scale of awareness that you are self-identifying with. Now, coming back again, and it's very important because this is how it works, I would suggest, this other world of secret societies, the global cult as I call it, it knows this, and it's set up society specifically to hold people in a deeply limited sense of self-identity. And it's moving towards, and it's talking about it openly in the next 10 years, to connecting artificial intelligence to the human mind, the human brain, so that instead of a awareness that we now call human, even in the 5 sense version of it, we then become simply a computer terminal for AI and these crazies, they're insane, in Silicon Valley are openly talking about this as a good thing. You'll be superhuman, we'll be gods. No, you won't. You'll be superhuman, you'll be subhuman. That's the whole idea. And so this whole area of who am I, what is the true I, is not some esoteric navel contemplating. It's fundamental to where we go from here. Because if we just identify with the 5 sense world and we try to change the 5 sense world within the 5 sense world, it ain't going to change. I mean, people might have noticed that in 2020. It's going to change when we take on a different self-identity and start tapping into that wisdom, that awareness, that inspiration, and also the power, as you mentioned, of the frequencies that we can, once we tap into, bring into this world and change the energetic nature of this reality. That's how things are going to change, and it's this area, and this is the reason that all the way through the last 30 years, whenever I've written a book about the names, dates, places agenda, always been massively infused with the nature of reality, because that's what they want to keep from us, and they want to do that because that's the way out of here.
Yeah, great answer. I want to kind of tie this together with something else I wanted to ask you about. I saw somebody ask you one time, aren't you afraid, with all the information that you've put forth in 30 plus years, aren't you afraid of some type of retaliation? And I loved your answer, and it's connected to what you're saying. I want to keep going with it. You said something to the effect of, it doesn't enter my field. I don't allow that threat to enter my field. I fortify my own energetic field. I go forth doing what I do with this essence with me, because I heard you say on Renegade that you've never felt alone. You've always felt like something was with you, and I know the people here can relate to that. The other thing that you said was that when you had the wake-up experience and you started on this journey of the last 30 years, that anytime that you started on a project, say a book or whatever the case was, anytime you followed the guidance, synchronistically, people came to you, information came to you, and things came to you. And again, a lot of the people watching this can relate to that because our lives have paralleled yours. Now, what I'm getting at is, in terms of turning this thing around and going off the great answer that you just gave us, in kind of a nuts and bolts, rules of the road, how do we go forward? I think what I'm getting from you is that we maintain and fortify our energetic field. We move forward in alignment, and the things that we need will come to us in synchronicity. It's almost like the best defense is a good offense. I mean, like, you don't seem to be pulled down by the negatives that you're contending with. You seem to be moving against it in a positive motion. Does that make sense?
Yeah, well, there's a few things to that. I could talk for a few hours now.
Go ahead. We're all ears.
One of them is this idea that information is negative or positive. It's information. Knowledge is not negative or positive. It's knowledge. And, you can see the uncovering of appalling happenings and manipulations. I spent decades doing that. You can see that as negative, and over the years, some of the most vehement critics of me have been so-called spiritual people, because they've said to me, "Oh, you that's negative. You're putting out all that negative information." Well, I don't perceive it as negative, and I don't think that knowledge is negative. It's knowledge that of, for instance, the appalling things that are going on, who's doing them and how, that gives you the gift of being able to understand the game and therefore play it in a more effective way. If you don't know how you're being manipulated, or even that you are being manipulated, then nothing's going to stop you being manipulated. If someone's manipulating you behind your back, you've got no chance of doing anything about it. And then when someone taps you on the shoulder and says, look, I've got something to tell you, you know that bloke, you know, you've been trusted. Well, you know what he's doing. Now suddenly you have knowledge. It's not nice knowledge, because you don't want to think that this guy's been manipulating you for ages, but you now have the knowledge to stop it. So this information is to me, it's always a way out of here by understanding how we got into here and how we are maintained here. And you know, in terms of what do we do? Well, I can tell you what I've done for 30 years, and that's follow my intuition. It comes from here in the heart. There's something that you can think, and you can get emotion from down here, and there are different ways of processing information. But this is where I've been coming from all these years, and this is what I've been following. And I mean, people listening to this will understand what I'm saying when I say that you get a feeling here which says yes, which says no, which goes, well, more to know. And that's what I've been doing for all these decades, following this. And this is what's led to the synchronicity of information coming to me, people coming to me, experiences coming to me, because this for me is basically how humanity has become trapped. This says, do what you know to be right. Do what you know to be right. The consequences, okay, you don't go looking for trouble, but if trouble's coming because you're doing what you know to be right, well, trouble can come because I'm doing what I know to be right. That's non-negotiable. But what happens is the head kicks in and the gut kicks in and gives you all the reasons why you shouldn't do what you know to be right. This will give you the fear, and this will list all the consequences and what if, and what happens if you do that. And basically this gets shut down, and you go with this. And this, if you think about it, the head thinking, which is a very low level of awareness, and the gut, fear, emotion, that's what traps people. The people are trapped here. And this other world knows that. That's why it's used that to trap us. But when this comes forward, and you do what you intuitively, instinctively know to be right, then that overpowers this. And what I found when I was going through this in the early days is, you know, there's a war goes on between your head and your gut and your heart. A war is probably not a good description, but there is a tussle for influence. And what happens is, when you want to follow your heart, you want to follow your intuition. This for me is the energetic connection, the biggest energetic connection to out there. I think the true self resides here during a human experience, the true core of self, or the connection to the true core of self. And what happens is you want to go with this, and then this comes in, gives you all the reasons why you shouldn't, all the consequences of doing that. This gives you the fear consequences, emotional consequences for doing that, and therefore you don't go with it. But what I decided, because you will know that when I came out, first of all, to talk about these things, the spiritual side of it, before I very quickly got into the name, states, places area in 1990, that I went through enormous levels of ridicule. I mean, historic levels. I mean, it was almost bizarre, the scale of it in this country, where I couldn't walk down any street without being laughed at by people anywhere I went. And you know, you turn the television on, the comedian only had to say my name and people started laughing. And I decided then, coming from where this feeling, that the worst thing I could do by going on with this was to completely mess up one brief experience as a human. And I thought, I can handle that. So I'm going with it. I'm going to see where this goes. And what happens you have this thing going on, because people said to me, when you came out with all that stuff, didn't you know you get ridiculed? Actually, I had actually worked that out, but I did it anyway. And what happens eventually is this tussle stops. It stopped with me anyway, when the head, if you like, observes the fact that when you go with your heart, with your intuition, you may get into some scrapes, because this is not coming from where this is coming from. This is not coming from a sense of reality and action that the 5 sense world you're living in is coming from. So of course you're going to be at odds with the world when you go with this, because that's the whole point of opening your heart to something greater than the 5 sense jail cell. But it observes that when you go with your heart, you may get into some scrapes, you may get into some challenges, but it all works out in the end. And it works out not despite the challenges, but because of them. And I have this phrase, life gives you your greatest gifts brilliantly disguised as your worst nightmare. And when I look at that period of mass ridicule, I don't look back at it with the horror that you would think. I wouldn't say I look back at it with affection, but I look back at it as a wonderful gift, because it cleared me out of the prison that most people live in, which is the fear of what other people think, which is another version of what are the consequences of me doing this, which keeps people in the prison. Oh, I don't want those consequences. And what happened to me probably about, I don't know, 93, something like that, is my head and my heart came into sync. So when my intuition now says, well, I'm going to do this, my head goes, okay, let's go. It doesn't say, oh no, consequences, because I'm not bothered about consequences. I'm bothered about doing what I know to be right. And the consequences take care of themselves. And of course, so often when you do what you know to be right, your fear of the consequences stops you doing it. But if you do it, you find that actually it's much easier than you thought it was going to be. And the consequences either are not as bad as you thought they would be, or they're not of the nature you thought they would be, or the experience, the consequence, was a gift to take you to a greater place of awareness and possibility. So I don't think, if I don't do what the authorities tell me to do and basically comply with my own enslavement, what are the consequences for me? Don't think about it. I'm just not complying with my own enslavement. That's crazy. Because when you do that, you are enslaved, and for sure. But the other thing is that if enough people do it, if enough people go with this and do what they know to be right, then there are no consequences, because it becomes unenforceable. You take the masks. Well, mask wearing is unenforceable now by the authorities and by law enforcement, because there's not enough of them and there's vast numbers of the population. So what they've had to do is manipulate the population to be the enforcers of masks. This is what they've had to do, get the great chunks of the target population to enforce the masks and these other fascistic impositions upon the population, when they are members of the population that's having them imposed upon them, because there's not enough of them. If people think, well, what do we do? Well, the numbers game alone. The numbers game alone. There's billions of us being manipulated, and at the core of the core, you get the cult in a core globally in one room. So the answer is there, but it comes from a transformation of human perception, both in self-identity and therefore the sense of your own power, but also in in people doing what they know to be right rather than letting consequences imprison them, or perceptions of consequences imprison them.
Would you that had been abandoned long ago, like love and illness and emotions? Much of life on other planetary systems has gone the same way. You follow logic for logic's own sake, because it makes logical sense. When you become the species that you are now, and you see how quickly you can incorporate technology and build on that, I mean, we'll just ask you to look back that within 200 years ago, what wasn't known and what you can do today is truly remarkable. But the path is the most common path. The path that you're on is a very predictable path. And following logic that you might call artificial intelligence, you build systems that make sense to logic. If you're building cars to transport yourselves around, you look for efficiency. So Henry Ford built the first production line, the assembly line, and that was super efficient and made cars affordable and made transportation available to so many people. But along the way, in the streamlining of efficiency, because that was what made the most sense, if you're building cars, how do we build them more efficiently? Well, now, just 100 years later, you go and look at a car manufacturing facility and it's mostly robotics and digital information, because that makes sense. The weakest link in the manufacturing of cars was the humans. They got sick and they needed time off, and they got hurt and they sued us and they needed insurance. So in that weakened state, we go, well, how do we become more efficient? Well, the efficiency is the technology. So you create the robots and you create the systems and the software to more efficiently build the cars. And now take that model and apply it to everything. How do we communicate more efficiently? How do we kill more efficiently? How do we travel more efficiently? And the answers come. You've done amazing things. In killing more efficiently, you figured out a way to split the atom. What not all cultures do, not all planetary cultures do. And you would have been, shall we say, better off had you not done that. And certainly, had you not done that when you did. Because the story, the uneven part of your story is that your consciousness is nowhere near in step with your technology. And it's troubling to us. It's the reason that we showed up. So many different extraterrestrial and galactic travelers showed up when we did, from the years you call 1945 to the early 50s, is because of your atomic weaponry, or the way you were going to use fission and fusion. You have nuclear atomic reactors all over the world, making it seem like it's such an easy way to produce power, spinning magnets around wires or wires around magnets, but it's all just to spin something, such a primal thing to do. And yet you took the highest technology to boil water, to heat a turbine and spin a fan so you could spin these low-tech motors. And in the byproduct of it, you have all this radioactive waste that is unhealthy to your species and your planet, and you have no place to put it. So when I say your consciousness never kept pace with it, or has not kept pace with it, is you would employ a technology before you fully understood the ramifications of it, what it would mean to your existence, what it would mean to the entire field, the collective field of awareness. But the big pull is the struggle, because so much of multidimensional life has followed the AI story. How do we become ever more efficient? How do we become more logic? Because why would we do anything illogical? Why would we consciously and on purpose do something that didn't make sense? And if we know that emotions and getting sick and being afraid don't make sense, why would we do that? So we abandoned those things. Other races that had a lot more time to tweak and engineer and keep the process going left those things behind. And along the way, we all have been greeted by an existential crisis of why do we do anything? We got really good. We're not the creators of source energy or vibration of frequency, but we're really good at using it. We can create life. You're on your way to creating life. You're doing things that were your own science fiction 100, 50, 200, certainly 1,000 years ago. The life you are living, communicating instantaneously around the world, able to see into your galactic system, to understand important things about other planets. Amazing things. But they don't answer any questions as to why. Why is any of this? We're great at doing it, but why are we doing it? And so at some point, there were high-level creators that said, what about all of the inefficiencies? What about all the illogical combinations? What if we engineered a species that was all of those things, that felt and sensed and felt the weight of gravity and felt pain and suffering and fear and lack, but also felt the emotions of love, because even those can be weak. If you're so in love with someone that you would kill for them, that doesn't make sense either. So what if we engineer a species like that, full of these frailties and weaknesses, and we monitor and learn from and see if their existence can somehow inform what is truly the holy grail quest of asking the question, why is anything? What is meaning? Because every intergalactic star traveler that we've ever met eventually beats their head against the same wall and doesn't know. They stand at the edge of the same cliff looking into the vortex of true creation, what you would call the big G God, and say, we know we're not that. And we want to know what that is, but nothing we've done so far has answered those questions. We've just gotten good at using big G God source to create things. So that is your species, that's your race. And hopefully the way that I conveyed it to you, you can feel the weight and how important you are, the information, the things that you've lived through, of adding to the information field that is not just for your planet alone. It is affecting and informing everything. It's important. And we were placed here. We were actually stationed here, what you would call Ashtar Command, to monitor your experience. We cannot over-involve ourselves. We can't just fly down and say, here we are, here's what we know, because we don't want you to know what we know. We want to know what you learn through this experience of lack and fear.
I understand. So it's a mutual connection. You and those like you, if I'm understanding this, you and those like you offer us information and have throughout our history, whether it be to individuals or to civilizations. And at the same time, we're providing code or information through our efforts in search of what you describe being a universal search, seemingly across all timelines and dimensions.
Yep, that's correct. And we invite you, if you're looking, or if people who are listening to this broadcast are wondering, well, what proof, if you're not communicating or landing in ships, what proof do you have? And you talked about sort of a breadcrumb trail, and we'll invite you to consider the name Ashtar. Ashtar has been filtering into your consciousness for a long time, and your very word star, Ishtar, Easter, those all come from the hearing of Ashtar. That's how deep your connection is with ours, that your highest holy day, your highest priestess, Ishtar, the word star or Astrea, all over the world in its pronunciations, are a form of revealing that we have made contact. And the word Ashtar, and even, as funny as this would sound, the logo or the symbol for what we are is what you would call sort of a rounded A. And if you think of the Star Trek logo, that would be a symbol of that we were here and connected with through thought. We've connected with members of your planetary species. Even your Space Force logo that's launching out of your country, you will find in the looping way that time and space work, or can work when you become experts at manipulating it, that you are becoming more or less what we are. Your abilities to travel in space, your physics, your awareness of the way you manufacture things, you're on the beginning level, and only the beginning level, but it's a major step of what you've done so far. But we want you to see the breadcrumbs, and we'll tell you a little story of truly, to date, our most involved communication with your species. And that is through the imagination, movies, television series, books. We have been the communicators of those ideas. We can't come and just say, here, build this nuclear submarine. So it comes to Jules Verne way ahead of time, but he addressed and accessed the information that we were sharing. And you jump forward into, in your timeline, the 1960s, and we came to a man named Gene Roddenberry, who was almost the least likely person to receive us, but that's just the way it works. We don't make determinations. We don't judge who's worthy of hearing this information or how they will receive it or what we do it. And he was a policeman who was relieved of duty, a drunk, a womanizer, by your standards on Earth, not a shining example of what humanity is, not someone you would think would be making contact, but he is the person that we made contact with. And so much technology that was to be your next level, from communication devices to propulsion systems to the ideas of warp drives to travel through warp space to replicators. Those were planted in his and the production, not only his, the production team at the time. They became their own crew without even knowing it. by sharing the information that came to them of how might this ship work and what is their purpose and who's managing the ship and what happens in this storyline as they meet other intergalactic beings, that was all us.
Yes. Yes. I think I'm ready for some questions if it's okay.
Sure.
save me. I got you, I love you. No one, the Michael Archangel of peace. We're working and shining the light. Truth and nurturing queens of a beast. We chillin'. It really ain't. You know what I'm saying? At least as far as I can see, we doing it. Jungle, see you all over my rain, see you all over my sleep. And when you wake, girl, I'm with breakfast. My pancakes are happy about breakfast. My daddy was always a quarterback, then he got off into chefing. Girl, I'm like a secret weapon. The rebel don't need no protection. Created, baby, I'm embodied. I'm loving the human experience. Mama, I'm shaking my body in bodies. Amazing. Not at all. As far as I can see. We gonna kick a groove for a little bit. This for them rollers with them things in the trunk. I need y'all to turn this thing up, you dig? Vibe out with me. Joe.
Supergalactic Fragilucious. Test. Got it? Ryan Aguilar, the beast on the guitar. That's his new name. Remember, the road will still be golden, even when your highest faith in something outside yourself is shattered to pieces. The road will still be golden if your prophet's words prove altered with lies applied to serve the selfishness of our minds. The road will still be golden if aliens descend from the skies and we discover that we are born of their light through their seeds. The road will still be golden if and when the nukes begin to fly and electricity becomes a dying dream and a renewed quest for living arrives. The road will still be golden when science and the stars collide with Jesus and the Anunnaki as Nibiru meets the third eye. Certain of nothing but our own divinity. Our place is here and now. We are golden and we are soul, but much more than that. That's where it's at. Breaking through that multi-dimensionality, divinity, infinity, holy triad, the Trinity. We're bringing it down now. This is our time. Time to rise. It's a benediction, coronation, divine demonstration, human soul hybrid. That's right, the whole universe is on the edge of their seat.
We're expanding this universe from the inner verse, the outer breath of Mother Creation, taking this universe to places it's never been before. That's a real deal. None of this stuff going on in the world stage or even in these family dramas with friends. Nah, it's all about you. Keep living to your truth, because then the universe reciprocates, and with these energies coming down, it can be a bumpy ride or it can be a big soul-gasm. Now bring in that eclipse and that new moon. Time to bring the bass down, lower the boom.
Yeah, Tsunami Diamond. I am so thankful and blessed right now. Feeling so much love, support, wisdom and guidance from the divine feminine and all of the goddesses that are coming into my life right now. Thank you. Thank you for believing in me. Thank you for loving me. Thank you for supporting me. The way is ever clear now that I see it. I'm no longer in fear now that I free it. There's only one thing to do, be it now that I conceived it. The truth ever clear as I be it, ever near as I received it. I am light disappeared as I reappear it. The masses are here and they are you. The great ones are awakening and this is true. Thank you for rising from the light in you. Lighting up the family tree of star seeds, the true Christmas tree is the tree of Christos. Lit by we, light by light, I see we see. The family tree of light, of oneness. Lit by eternal love, unity and oneness. Light it up, that tree is you. All you have to do is be the light in you. As I take all off, that is not me. I rise as the truth, the love I used to seek. I bow to the great one that has caused the love to be found in me, my inner wizard of Oz. Wise as the sunrise, as the sunset, as the rain is wet. Wise to bow to the one, and wise to rise as the sun, and rise to do it again and again. And every single moment I choose to transcend all of my connections, transparent, full of light. Light all I touch and all that touches me, a welcoming to a homecoming. to all that you can be, as I can be, in all I do, in all I see. I will unfold, turn inside out. I am just as I am. What more do I need to understand? Create from this love and be this love. Many a story have been told, many a story will be told, and from here now I unfold. From my love be told, from my heart be told. For as the story changes and rearranges, one thing remains, that I am, and that I is love. The only thing to do is be that love. Unfold from there into everywhere. Be as you are, and we're meant to be. How you know in your heart, you are to be. For we are each other's keys, and your simply being can help unlock the we. Everything is far more connected and intertwined than we can even have the capacity to realize in these minds. Realize as you bear witness, may you be realigned to the inner love of these magical times. By the grace connected to the great heartbeat, it's time to unite the tribes and get off your seat. I am as a tree, I work at transmuting density. I anchored into this reality, and my heart field expands from within me. The canopy of I am extends far above me. The roots of I am flow deep, deep, deep. I transmute the densities, I absorb organically. As a tree converts CO2 into oxygen, I turn densities into light with my heart engine designed with this intention. I am a triple of light. Stand with me as a forest of treble, sending light into this atmospheric steeple. A feeling deep, vibrational sensation full of useful information, a physical translation beyond words and beyond temptations of projections from a mental concentration. The feeling and sensing bodies are changing, and it is with great elation that we as a collective endure and ensure this transformation. Always reroute and focus back to the heart gate, stargate, away and the way. Away from the blame game, the me and they fame, the disempowerment chain. It is now time to remain, reframe and remain, growing into the lion's mane. This energy that stands for pride, the type of pride that lays it all on the line. The type that is vulnerable for it works as one pride.
Skywalker, you know we up in here. 25 centuries infinity. Yo, got 113 in the building. Team, 6 Sense. You know the drill is for real. Let's go to work. Yo, lifetime after lifetime, an entity incarnated, centuries of blossoming, lotus of infinity expanding. Horseback, Jackie O, the lantern, Bruce Wayne the Phantom, other opera operator, galactic Fetty, prime creator, Phoenix Rising, Kevin Johnson, Western Conference. With assistance, get the glisten, noble rhythms. It's a journey, evolution, strapping on the rocket boosters. I'm returning to the heavens. Yeah, stutter stepping, Cuban link necklace on the hostess, powdered donut breakfast. Special message detected when you rest within your essence. Hey, it's a blessing to be pleasant, splicing DNA amongst the righteous, audio biting on some Mike Tyson. Mammoth loving, snuffleupagus, sixth sense in him, we bugging. Egyptian beetle, number 7, Orion's belt on the horizon. Rainbow Bridge is activated, cause we made it, yeah. Cause we made it, dig, yo. What up, team?
Through the density we still rise. Over centuries that crew lives. Yeah, holding down truth, that 2-5. That 2-5, baby. Holding down truth, that 2-5. We in here. Through the density we still rise. Over centuries that crew lives. Holding down truth, that 2-5. Yeah, 2-5. Holding down truth, that 2-5. 6 cents.
After the service is dealt, they put the ego on the shelf. Meanwhile, looking for wealth, what the cards are dealt. Starts from the heart, I look in their eyes. Compromise when they hide like hype. Well, here's the ball. They rather walk through the mall. Bizarre like a phone call. iPhone to jump off the bandwagon. I'm low like my pants sagging. Institutionalized, indoctrinized by TV. I see. It's like the culture, the hood's been cultivated. I kill a weed or Wi-Fi. Watch the action is pop culture. Crop the vulture circle when you die. Too much hate, a piece of the American pie. Hands are stuck when I bust like the masturbates the line. But the mainstream gritty mob face down and ask why. The outcast Jezebel stroke on the twerk line. World starter boycott forgotten when we used to pick cotton. But enough to change the rim when the apple's rotten. Yeah, quality, but a gritty.
Through the density we still rise. Over centuries that crew lives. Holding down truth, that 2-5. Holding down truth, that 2-5. Through the density we still rise. Over centuries that crew lives. Holding down truth, that 2-5. Holding down truth, that 2-5.
Hold it down. I'm saying, clapping out to you, universal brothers and sisters. What up, what up?
What up, world?
Sam, 113, what up? Swateen, salute.
Swateen, I'm under the eye. Third eye. Frankfurt V spot. What up? Continue.
Michael Carolina.
Everywhere. University out here, baby. You can find us at the river.
You know what I'm saying? It's going down, yo.
You'll pass some Kush cookies, yo.
2015, kid.
Get it.
Dope.
Found a higher elevation. I did a video earlier. Lower elevation. See that? Isn't that beautiful? Yeah. That light's even coming in. At least I can see it. I don't know if it's going to come out. It's a beautiful planet. We're a beautiful species. Everybody's got a role here. We don't understand it. It's time to move away from the lower density vibrations. The veil's been lifted. There's plenty of light beings, higher energies that we don't understand and can never understand as human beings. But we have company here on this earth, and we always have, but now that the veil's lifted, a lot more people are seeing it. Keep your head up. Keep the faith. Most of all, stay in your own power. Protect it. It's yours. It's the only thing you can own in this universe is you. Nobody can own you, and you can't own anybody. And anyone that ever came up with the idea, or whoever did come up with the idea that anything could be possessed on this earth was wrong.
There's no such thing as a patent or a copyright or a trademark. No such thing as a contract. Nothing. Soul is soul. We're all one. And that's not a cliche. The light has won. We're all going to be part of this mutual rising. It's not just a soul thing. It's not just a Gaia thing. It's not just a solar system thing. Galactic. It involves more than our sun and our moon, all the stars that we can see. It's a big time. Everybody that's here signed up for it. And it's about to pay off. I'll see y'all at the after party. Todd Medina, Soldier One Studios, wishing you peace, power, protection, and big love to you and yours. One.